Sir, just a moment, please. Number 1, I have to forget her. I can't keep living each day with nothing but her memory to hold on to. Asterisk, what happens when a single night changes everything? Stay tuned to Dark Voices to find out. Asterisk, instead of arguing, Paula kept quiet for reasons she couldn't understand. Her body gave in to the man. Maybe it was the alcohol. Whoever you are, I hope I forget everything by tomorrow, was the last thing Paula whispered before she allowed herself to drown in the heat radiating from Jordan. The next morning, Jordan woke up to a rapid knock on the door. Sir, we're really sorry. We didn't know Ella would have an emergency. What do you mean? Wait, what? Jordan looked back and forth between the bed and the woman Ella had apparently replaced. And then it hit him. He closed the door and returned to the bed, only to find a pair of earrings and a bloodstain on the sheets. A shocking discovery that turned his world upside down. Keep watching Dark Voices for the twist. She was a virgin. This is insane. Jordan hurriedly called his secretary. I don't know her, but find her. Search the entire company. I should marry her. But sir, no buts. She might be a spy. She could blackmail me. Just do it fast. One more shot. Come on, Paula. It burns my throat. I'm done. It's just the start. Eventually, you'll crave it. One more. Let me drink it instead. B, don't force Paula. Shut up, Brent. We all know you're just trying to impress Paula. She doesn't like you. Paula couldn't do anything when Brent himself handed her the bottle. She knew Brent didn't actually like her. He was just messing around, just like everyone else. No one in their right mind would fall for someone like her. No sense of fashion, no charm. If not for the company party, she wouldn't even be at any party at all. She would have rather stayed in and worked. We're your friends, Paula. Well, more like office mates. We wouldn't want you getting into trouble, right, guys? Paula scanned the people around her. Even though her vision was spinning, she could tell not everyone agreed with that statement. She just laughed it off and downed the drink in her glass, something she immediately regretted as it burned down her throat and left a warmth in her chest. Come on, Rhea. Why me? Because you came up with this, B. You're always dragging me into things. Paula turned toward the two girls arguing, and before she could object, Rhea shoved a frothy drink into her hands. She took a sip. It didn't taste bad. This will be your last one, Paula. After this drink, you're free to go. We'll make sure you get home safe, girl. Yeah, we'll take you back. Shut up. We'll take her home. Paula started feeling dizzy almost instantly, but she didn't suspect anything from the drink. She had drunk a fair amount and didn't know her own tolerance. She wasn't aware that someone was subtly guiding her feet. Not her own will, but someone else's. Just walk straight, Paula. There's an open door to the left. Go in and rest there. We don't know when the party will end, but we'll let you know. Paula nodded and lay down as soon as she saw the room. It was dark, lit only by a small lamp. She would never betray me. She's not that kind of woman. She's not my mother. She never will be. No one can replace her, not even your mistress. Where do you even meet her? A club. And you expect her to be a saint? She's nothing like Mom. She was pure, and you lost her because of your infidelity. Dad, what did you just say? She's gone. She's been gone for a long time. What do you want me to do? Mourn forever? I don't need drama in my life. I have companies to build, not worthless emotional baggage. Jordan stood frozen at his father's words. Only his mom had ever truly understood him. Losing her felt like losing half of his soul. His father's affairs and cruelty had taken her from them far too soon. Jordan took a hard punch from his father, his lip bleeding, but he didn't flinch. He knew his dad had never really loved his mom. What Jordan hated most was how his father's womanizing ruined everything. And yet, what he didn't realize was that the deeper his resentment grew, the more he was becoming the very thing he despised, a playboy. Get out, Jordan. You know what I'm capable of when I run out of patience. That'll be your downfall. So, Jordan left. He went straight to the club where his employees were having a celebration, a company party to honor them, staying ranked as the #1 business in their field. This wasn't just any club. It was a high-end place. Their slogan, "What happens in the club stays in the club." Hi, sir. How can we help you tonight? Mr. Jordan, your room is ready. Apologies. We didn't recognize you at first. That's fine. Where's the key and the usual? Here you go, sir. Ella should be arriving in your room any minute now. Jordan nodded, accepted the key, and gave polite smiles and nods to the staff who greeted him. He didn't go to the room immediately. He paused when one of his trusted friends, someone he had known since college, approached. Look at those girls. B is at it again, picking on Paula. Dude, B's hot. Just look at her. I don't have time for women right now. I need to unwind. Come on, man. Just admit B's not your type. Is it your dad again? He seriously hates your guts. That woman, she controls your dad like a puppet. Shut up. You're talking about your mom. His friend laughed. I never really felt like she was my mom. She never made me feel that way. They both sighed and took a sip of their drinks. Sir, can we have your keycard? We need to duplicate it for easier access. Jordan handed over his key. The staff cleaned the room, but they failed to close the door properly. They needed the duplicate so Ella could enter easily later. Because Jordan had drunk so much, when he finally checked the time, it was well past midnight. He remembered the room number perfectly and made his way there. Inside, a woman lay on the bed, but not in the usual seductive posture he was used to. She looked genuinely asleep, comfortably resting with her glasses still on. Jordan carefully removed them, and that's when her beauty struck him. What kind of game is this? Is this your new idea of foreplay? He muttered and kissed her neck. That startled Paula awake, and she tried to push him away. Sir, please, just a moment. Shoo, I have to forget her. I can't keep living like this. Her memory is all I have. Instead of resisting, Paula said nothing. She didn't know why, but her body surrendered. Maybe it was the alcohol. Whoever you are, I hope I forget all of this tomorrow, were the last words Paula uttered before letting herself sink into the heat that Jordan offered. Jordan had no idea why, but he was going crazy from Paula's scent. It made him burn hotter every time he heard her soft moans, felt her pinches. When he knew he was going too far, he could feel something inside him pause, but he chose to ignore it until they both finished. They were still intoxicated. At some point, Jordan felt Paula wrap her arms around him, and then tears began streaming down his face. Startled, Paula sat up quickly. Jordan did, too. She held his face gently and wiped his tears. Why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying. No matter how much you miss someone, you shouldn't shed tears for them. What do you know? Jordan snapped, brushing off Paula's hand. But she just smiled and reached out again, wiping the tears from his cheeks. Exactly. I don't know anything, but I'm here. I'll listen. You know, sometimes it's better to let the pain out than keep it hidden. Do you think anything will change if you cry? Do you think they'd be happy knowing you're crying over them? They don't even know I still think about them. They can't know I'm this soft. They could use it against me, blackmail me, threaten me. This isn't some childish game anymore. One wrong move, and I could lose everything. Then use your pain, she said quietly. Let it guide you. Use it to fight. I'm jealous of her, Paula added, eyes fixed on him. She still has someone thinking about her, not like me. Sometimes I feel like the only one who even remembers I exist is me. It's hard. She's been gone a long time ago. And Dad never even considered her his wife. Front door, watching Jordan and Vince from a distance. They were sitting on the curb, Jordan tying Vince's shoelaces as the boy talked animatedly about his day at school. She realized something then. She wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. She wasn't bracing herself for heartbreak. She was content, whole, and for the first time, she believed this might actually last. That maybe, just maybe, she wasn't dreaming anymore. Back in the city, Bea sat in front of a mirror, dabbing cream on a scar on her forehead. The internet hadn't forgotten what happened at her party. The video had gone viral. People laughed. Some called it karma. Others speculated it was a marketing stunt gone wrong. But those who knew really knew went silent. Rhea had resigned 2 days after the party. She moved out of the city, blocking Bea on all platforms. Bea was left alone. No allies, no influence. Her access to Jordan had been cut. Her position at the company had been reassigned, and she had no idea how to bounce back. In her condo, surrounded by unopened gifts and discarded dresses, she stared at her reflection and whispered, "You think you've won, Paula?" Her lips curled into a smile. "We'll see." Back in the countryside, Vince ran into Paula's arms. "Mom, Dad said I can try karate class." "Oh, really?" Paula raised an eyebrow, smiling. "Yep, but only if you say yes, too." Paula looked over at Jordan, who leaned on the fence, pretending not to listen. She laughed. "Okay, but only if you promise not to use your moves on your classmates." Vince raised his hands solemnly. "Promise." Then he dashed off to the backyard, already mimicking kicks. Paula walked over to Jordan. "He's growing up fast," she said. Jordan nodded. "He's a good kid. Smart, kind, and strong, just like his mom." Paula rolled her eyes but smiled. Jordan turned serious. "I meant what I said before." "Which part?" "All of it, but especially the part about wanting to marry you." Paula looked away. "I'm still not ready." "I know," he said gently. "But I'll wait as long as it takes." Paula met his eyes. "You might be waiting a while." Jordan smiled. "Then I'll just keep doing this one day at a time." He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't hesitate. Their fingers laced together easily, like they'd been made for it all along. And somewhere nearby, Vince shouted, "Hiya!" They laughed, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly where it belonged. Bea's apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She sat on her couch, staring at her laptop screen. The blinking cursor on a blank document mocked her. All her plans gone. All her power vanished. She reached for her phone. No new messages, no missed calls. Her inbox was empty. Her name had stopped trending. Her investors had backed out. Her social media engagement plummeted. All that was left was silence. Bea scrolled through her photo gallery. There were old pictures of her with Jordan, posing at company galas and industry parties. She zoomed in on one where she stood beside him, smiling confidently, but she saw it now, what she hadn't noticed then. He wasn't smiling back. Not really. She tossed the phone aside. Then she stood, walked to her bathroom, and stared at herself in the mirror. Gone was the polished, perfect woman she used to flaunt. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes hollow. And for the first time in a long time, Bea whispered to her own reflection, "Who are you without him?" She didn't have an answer, so she smashed the mirror. Meanwhile, Jordan and Paula had settled into a quiet rhythm. Each morning began with breakfast as a family. Each evening ended with Jordan walking Vince upstairs, telling bedtime stories about astronauts and dinosaurs. The townspeople had grown used to seeing Jordan. They no longer stared. Some even greeted him like an old friend. He helped at the local community center, donated school supplies, sponsored a youth sports league. He didn't act like a billionaire. He acted like a dad. Paula, meanwhile, had returned to baking. She sold cookies and pies at the town market twice a week. Her booth was always the first to sell out, especially once word spread that her partner was Jordan Grant. But none of it went to her head. If anything, she became more grounded because happiness wasn't loud. It was quiet, gentle, peaceful, and finally hers. One afternoon, while Vince was napping upstairs, Paula and Jordan sat on the porch. The sky was painted in soft orange hues. A breeze rustled the trees. Jordan turned to her. "I was offered a position back in LA," he said. Paula looked at him, uncertain. "Are you taking it?" "I said no." She blinked. "Why?" "Because my life is here now. You and Vince, you're my home." Paula looked down, blinking fast. "Still not ready," she whispered. "I know," he said with a smile. "Like I said, I'll wait." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat there in silence, letting the sunset wrap around them like a promise. Somewhere far away, in a sleek office tower in the city, Bea packed the last of her things into a box, her nameplate gone, her desk cleared. She handed her ID card to the receptionist without a word and walked toward the elevator. No one stopped her. No one said goodbye. As the elevator doors closed, Bea stared at her reflection in the polished metal. And this time, she didn't recognize the woman looking back. It was Vince's birthday. The small yard behind Paula's house had been transformed into a colorful, balloon-filled paradise. Folding tables covered in superhero tablecloths, a rented inflatable bounce house, and a cake shaped like a rocket ship took center stage. Jordan had handled most of the setup himself. He wore an apron with birthday crew printed across the front and manned the grill with a spatula in hand. Vince ran around excitedly, wearing a homemade cape and a crown labeled Captain Vince. Dad, watch this," he yelled, leaping off the bottom step with his arms spread wide. "I saw that. Best superhero landing yet." Jordan laughed, clapping. Paula emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of cupcakes, her hair pulled into a loose ponytail, flower on her cheek. The guests were all locals, Vince's classmates, their parents, and neighbors who had grown close to Paula and Jordan over the last few months. The party wasn't extravagant, but it was perfect. Laughter filled the air. Kids screamed and chased bubbles. Music played from a small Bluetooth speaker tucked near the porch. When it was time for the cake, Paula lit the candles while Jordan held Vince steady in front of it. Everyone sang. Vince's smile stretched ear to ear as he closed his eyes and made a wish. He blew out the candles in one breath. Then he turned to both of them and said, "This was the best birthday ever." Later that evening, after the guests had left and the yard had quieted, Paula and Jordan sat on the steps. Vince had fallen asleep inside, sugar-crashed and dreaming, still wearing his paper crown. Jordan looked at Paula. "You did great today. You, too. He'll remember this forever." They fell into a comfortable silence. Then Jordan said, "I have something for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Paula's breath caught. He opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring, elegant and understated. Her hand flew to her chest. "Jordan, I know you're not ready," he said quickly. "This isn't for now. I'm not asking for an answer today. I want you to have it." She stared at the ring. "I don't want to lose you again," he said softly. "But I'll wait. However long it takes. Just keep this, and when you're ready, say yes." Paula took a deep breath. Her hand trembled as she reached for the box. She didn't put the ring on. She just held it in her palm and looked at him. Okay. They didn't kiss. They didn't cry. They just sat there side by side under the stars, knowing they were building something real. Not fast, not perfect, but honest. And that was enough. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Paula decided to take Vince to the local park. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn chill that made you want to pull your sweater tighter. Jordan had insisted on joining them, carrying a small backpack with snacks and a soccer ball. Vince, now 7 and full of boundless energy, ran ahead, kicking at fallen leaves and shouting about how he was going to score a goal against his dad. Slow down, Captain Vince. Jordan called, jogging to keep up. Paula watched them, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The ring, still in its velvet box, sat untouched in her dresser drawer. She hadn't put it on, hadn't even opened the box since Jordan gave it to her, but its presence lingered in her mind like a quiet promise. At the park, Jordan set up a makeshift goal using 2 water bottles, and he and Vince began a playful match. Paula sat on a nearby bench, her hands wrapped around a thermos of coffee, smiling as Vince tried to dribble past Jordan, only to be gently tackled and tickled into the grass. Their laughter echoed across the field, blending with the rustle of leaves and the distant chatter of other families. For a moment, Paula let herself imagine this as her forever, Jordan, Vince, and her, a family stitched together not by grand gestures but by these small, ordinary moments. But the thought was quickly followed by a pang of doubt. Could she trust this? Could she trust him? After all, she'd built her life around protecting herself and Vince. Letting someone in, even someone who seemed to fit so perfectly, felt like a risk she wasn't sure she was ready to take. "Mom, come play," Vince shouted, waving her over. Jordan looked up, grinning, his cheeks flushed from the cool air in the game. "Yeah, come on, Paula. Show us your moves," Jordan teased. She laughed, setting her thermos down. "Oh, you're in trouble now," she said, rolling up her sleeves and jogging over. The 3 of them played until the sun climbed higher, their breaths visible in the chilly air, their shoes scuffed with dirt. For the first time in a long time, Paula felt like she wasn't carrying the weight of her past alone. Back in the city, Bee's life had unraveled further. The scandal at her birthday party had been the final nail in the coffin of her carefully crafted image. The viral video of her drenched in pig's blood had become a meme, a punchline shared across social media. Her attempts to spin it as a prank had failed, nobody bought it. Her investors had pulled out completely, her contracts were cancelled, and her once loyal circle of allies had scattered. Even Rhea, her closest confidant, had cut contact, leaving Bee to face the fallout alone. She sat in her now sparsely furnished condo, the luxury furniture sold off to cover mounting debts. The silence was suffocating. Her phone, once buzzing with notifications, now sat dormant. She opened her laptop, scrolling through job listings, but her reputation had spread like a stain. No one in the industry would touch her. She'd gone from being the woman who had it all to the woman who had nothing. Bee's fingers hovered over her keyboard. She typed Paula into a search engine, then hesitated. She didn't know Paula's last name, not really, but she remembered enough: Mitch's friend, the quiet girl from the office, the one who'd been in Jordan's room that night. She'd pieced together enough from Rhea's nervous confessions to know Paula was the real owner of the earrings, the one who'd slipped through her fingers. The one who'd won. Her jaw tightened. She didn't have proof, but she didn't need it. She just needed something, anything, to claw her way back. She opened a new tab and began searching for private investigators. If she could find Paula, if she could expose her, maybe she could turn things around. Maybe she could make Jordan see that she, Bee, was the one who deserved him. Meanwhile, back in the countryside, Paula and Jordan were cleaning up after dinner. Vince was sprawled on the couch, watching a cartoon, his eyelids heavy. Jordan scrubbed a pan in the sink while Paula dried the plates, their movements synchronized in a way that felt almost too natural. "You're getting good at this domestic stuff," Paula said, nudging him with her elbow. Jordan chuckled. "I had a good teacher." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the clink of dishes and the faint hum of the TV. Then Jordan spoke, his voice soft but deliberate. "I've been thinking about moving here permanently." Paula paused, the dish towel still in her hand. "What about your company?" "I can run it remotely. I've been doing it for weeks already. The city, it's not where I want to be anymore." She set the towel down, turning to face him. "Jordan, that's a big decision." "I know. But I've made bigger ones." He looked at her, his eyes steady. "I don't want to miss another day with Vince. Or with you." Paula's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, wanted to lean into the warmth of his words, but the fear still lingered. "What if you change your mind? What if you miss your old life?" Jordan set the pan down and dried his hands. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of green in his eyes. My old life was empty. I had money, power, everything, but it didn't mean anything. This, he gestured around the small kitchen, toward the living room where Vince was dozing, this means everything. Paula swallowed hard, her throat tight. I want to believe you. Then let me show you, he said softly. I'm not going anywhere. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she turned back to the dishes, needing the familiar rhythm to steady her thoughts. Jordan didn't push. He just picked up another pan and kept scrubbing. The next day, Paula took Vince to school, waving as he ran off to join his friends. When she returned home, Jordan was waiting on the porch, a cup of coffee in hand. Got a minute? He asked. She nodded, sitting beside him. What's up? I've been thinking about Vince's future, he said, his tone careful. I want to set up a trust fund for him. For school, college, whatever he needs. Paula frowned. Jordan, we're fine. I've been managing. I know you have, he said quickly. And you've done an incredible job. But I want to help. I want to be part of this, not just for now, but for the long haul. She looked at him, searching his face for any hint of insincerity, but found none. Okay, she said finally. But it's for Vince, not me. Deal, Jordan said with a small smile. And speaking of Vince, I was thinking we could take him to the aquarium this weekend. He's been talking about sharks nonstop. Paula laughed. You're spoiling him. Maybe a little, Jordan admitted. But he's worth it. The weekend arrived, and the aquarium trip was a hit. Vince pressed his face against every glass tank, pointing at jellyfish and octopuses, asking Jordan a million questions. Paula trailed behind, snapping photos, her heart swelling at the sight of her son so happy. Jordan was patient, answering every question with enthusiasm, even when Vince asked if sharks ever forgot where they parked their cars. On the drive back, Vince fell asleep in the back seat, clutching a stuffed shark Jordan had bought him. Paula glanced at Jordan, who was focused on the road, one hand resting casually on the wheel. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? He asked, glancing at her. For being here. For him. Jordan's expression softened. I'm not doing it out of obligation, Paula. I'm doing it because I want to. She nodded, looking out the window to hide the tears prickling her eyes. She still hadn't touched the ring, but for the first time, she was starting to think she might. Back in the city, Bee's desperation had reached a boiling point. The private investigator she'd hired had come up empty-handed, no trace of Paula, no last name, no address. It was as if Paula had vanished into thin air. Bee slammed her laptop shut, her hands shaking. She couldn't let this go. She wouldn't. She'd lost everything, but she wasn't going to let Paula have the last laugh. She grabbed her phone and called an old contact, someone she'd worked with years ago who wasn't afraid to bend the rules. I need you to find someone, she said, her voice low. Her name's Paula. She used to work at my company. I don't care what it costs. Just find her. The man on the other end agreed, and Bee hung up, a flicker of hope sparking in her chest. If she could find Paula, she could ruin her. She could make Jordan see that Paula wasn't the saint he thought she was. She could take back what was hers. Weeks passed, and life in the countryside settled into a steady rhythm. Jordan had officially leased a small house just a block from Paula's, close enough to be part of their daily lives but giving her the space she needed. He'd started working remotely, attending virtual meetings and delegating most of his in-person responsibilities to his team in the city. The townspeople had fully embraced him, especially after he sponsored a new playground at the community center. Paula, meanwhile, had expanded her baking business. She'd started taking custom orders for birthday cakes and catering small events. Her kitchen was always filled with the scent of vanilla and cinnamon, and Vince loved sneaking cookie dough when she wasn't looking. One evening, as Paula and Jordan sat on her porch, watching Vince chase fireflies in the yard, Paula spoke up. I've been thinking about what you said. Jordan turned to her, his expression calm but curious. Which part? About us. About the future. She paused, twisting her hands together. She called Mitch immediately. I need you to come here, she said, her voice trembling. Something's happening. Mitch arrived by noon, her usual confidence replaced with worry as Paula showed her the note. This is B, Mitch said without hesitation. I'd bet my life on it. But how? I'd been gone for years. How would she find me? Mitch sat down, rubbing her temples. She's desperate, Paula. She lost everything, her job, her status, Jordan. People like her don't just let go. She's probably been digging for months. Paula paced the kitchen. What do? I can't just run again. Vince loves it here. He's got school, friends, Jordan. Then don't run, Mitch said firmly. You fight. We fight. She's not getting away with this. But what if she tells Jordan? What if she tries to hurt Vince? Mitch grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. Jordan's not an idiot. He knows B's a liar. And no one's touching Vince. Not while I'm here. Paula nodded, trying to steady her breathing. I need to tell Jordan. Mitch agreed. Do it. But be careful. B's not stupid, she's probably watching. That afternoon, Paula met Jordan at the diner again. Vince was at a friend's house, giving them time to talk. She slid the note across the table, watching his face as he read it. His jaw tightened. Who sent this? I don't know for sure, Paula said, her voice low. But Mitch thinks it's B. Jordan's eyes darkened. B? Why would she? He stopped, realization hitting. She's been lying to me for years. About that night, about everything. I should have seen it. Paula reached for his hand. I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could handle it. You don't have to handle it alone, he said, his voice firm. We're in this together. She nodded, tears prickling her eyes. I'm scared, Jordan. For Vince. For us. He squeezed her hand. I'm not letting anything happen to either of you. I promise. That evening, Jordan called a private security firm he trusted, hiring a team to discreetly monitor Paula's house and Vince's school. He didn't tell Paula the full extent, he didn't want to worry her more, but he wasn't taking chances. He also reached out to a contact at his company, someone who could dig into B's recent activities without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, B was growing bolder. She'd rented a car and driven back to the town, parking just outside the school during pickup time. She watched from a distance as Jordan walked Vince out, the boy swinging his backpack and talking animatedly. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She didn't have a plan yet, but the sight of them together, Jordan, Paula's son, the life she'd wanted, lit a fire in her chest. She followed them at a distance, careful not to be seen, as they stopped at the park. Vince ran to the swings, and Jordan sat on a bench, his eyes scanning the area. B smirked. He was paranoid, but not paranoid enough. She pulled out her phone and typed a quick message to her contact, do it tonight. That night, Paula tucked Vince into bed, reading him an extra story to calm her own nerves. Jordan stayed downstairs, checking the locks and setting up a small security camera he'd brought from the city. The house was quiet, but the air felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Around midnight, Paula woke to a faint noise, a soft thud outside. She sat up, heart pounding, and crept to the window. The street was dark, but she saw a shadow move near the mailbox. She grabbed her phone and texted Jordan, who was sleeping in the guest room. Someone's outside. He was at her side in seconds, fully awake. Stay here, he whispered, grabbing a flashlight and heading downstairs. Paula hesitated, then followed, clutching a baseball bat she kept under her bed. They moved quietly to the front door, Jordan easing it open. The flashlight beam swept across the yard, landing on the mailbox. It was open, a small package spilling out onto the ground. Jordan approached cautiously, Paula close behind, her grip tight on the bat. He picked up the package, a plain brown envelope, no address, no name. Inside was another note, "You can't hide forever." Tucked beside it was a single earring, identical to the one Paula had lost that night at the club. Her breath caught. "That's mine." Jordan's face hardened. "She's here." They went back inside, locking the door. Jordan called his security team, giving them a description of the envelope and instructions to sweep the area. Paula sat on the couch, clutching the earring, her mind racing. "She's not going to stop," she whispered. "Then we make her," Jordan said, his voice steady but laced with anger. "I'm done playing her games." The next morning, Mitch arrived with a plan. "We need to draw her out," she said, pacing Paula's living room. "She's watching, waiting for you to slip up. So, we give her what she wants, a chance to confront you." Paula shook her head. "No, Mitch. I'm not putting Vince in danger." "You won't," Mitch said. "We control the terms. We pick a public place, somewhere she can't make a scene without exposing herself. She's desperate, Paula. She'll take the bait." Jordan nodded. "I agree. We need to end this." Paula looked between them, her heart pounding. "What if it backfires?" "It won't," Mitch said. "She's got no leverage. She's just trying to scare you." They decided on the town square, during the next market day. It was public, crowded, and safe. Mitch would spread a rumor through her old office contacts that Paula would be there, alone, setting up her booth. If B was as obsessed as they thought, she'd show up. The day of the market, Paula's nerves were shot. She set up her booth as usual, but her eyes kept scanning the crowd. Jordan stayed nearby, blending in with a baseball cap and sunglasses, while Mitch watched from a cafe across the street, ready to call the police if needed. Vince was at a friend's house, under the watchful eye of Jordan's security team. The morning dragged on, the crowd growing thicker. Paula sold pies and cookies, forcing smiles, her hands shaking every time someone lingered too long near her booth. Then, just before noon, she saw her. B, standing at the edge of the market, no sunglasses this time, her eyes locked on Paula. She wore a black coat, her hair pulled back, her face pale but determined. Paula's heart raced, but she didn't look away. She nodded slightly, as if inviting B to come closer. B hesitated, then started walking toward the booth, her steps deliberate. "Paula," B said when she reached the booth, her voice low and sharp. "Long time." Paula kept her expression neutral. "What do you want, B?" "You know what I want," B said, leaning in. "You took everything from me. Jordan, the life I was supposed to have. I'm here to take it back." "There's nothing to take," Paula said calmly. "Jordan's not yours. He never was." B's eyes flashed with anger. "You think you're better than me? You, with your pathetic little life, hiding in this nowhere town?" Paula didn't flinch. "I'm not hiding anymore. You're the one who's lost, B." B's hand shot out, grabbing Paula's wrist. "You don't get to win," she hissed. Before Paula could respond, Jordan stepped out from the crowd, his voice calm but firm. "Let her go, B." B froze, her grip loosening. She turned, her face paling as she saw Jordan. "You," she stammered. "You're supposed to be here," Jordan finished. "I know everything, B. The lies, the schemes, the earrings. It's over." B's eyes darted between them, her composure crumbling. "You don't understand. She's lying to you. She's..." "Enough," Jordan cut her off. "I've seen the footage. Mitch sent me everything, your conversations with Rhea, the bank accounts, the fraud. You're done." B's mouth opened, but no words came out. The crowd around them was starting to notice, whispers spreading. Mitch appeared, her phone in hand, already dialing the police. "You can walk away now," Mitch said, her voice cold. "Or you can wait for the cops. Your choice." B's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage, of defeat. She looked at Paula one last time, her voice barely a whisper. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Paula said, her voice steady. Go. Bea turned and walked. I'm still scared, Jordan. But I'm starting to believe you're not going anywhere. He smiled, small but genuine. That's a start. I don't know when I'll be ready, she continued. But I want to try. With you. With us. Jordan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. That's all I need to hear. They sat there, hands clasped, watching Vince dart through the grass, his laughter filling the night. For the first time, Paula felt like she wasn't running from her past or bracing for the future. She was just here, in this moment, with the people who mattered most. But in the city, Bea's investigator had finally found a lead. A grainy photo from a small-town newspaper, showing Paula at a local market, her booth piled high with pastries. The investigator had cross-referenced it with school records for a boy named Vince, enrolled in a nearby elementary school. The pieces were falling into place. Bea stared at the photo, her fingers trembling. Got you, she whispered. She didn't know what her next move would be, but she knew one thing for certain, she wasn't done yet. The next morning, Paula woke to the sound of Vince banging around in the kitchen, trying to make pancakes. She hurried downstairs, laughing as she saw flour dusted across his face and the counter. Vince, what are you doing? She asked, tying an apron around herself. Making breakfast for you and Dad, he said proudly, holding up a lumpy pancake. Jordan appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Smells like a 5-star restaurant in here, he said, winking at Vince. They ate together, the pancakes slightly burnt but eaten with enthusiasm. As Paula watched Jordan and Vince banter over who could stack their pancakes the highest, she felt a warmth she hadn't known was possible. But deep down, a small knot of unease lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something she wasn't prepared for. And she was right. Because in a city hundreds of miles away, Bea was already planning her next move, a storm brewing in her heart, ready to upend the fragile peace Paula had fought so hard to build. The countryside mornings had a rhythm now, a quiet cadence that Paula had come to cherish. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the scent of dew-soaked grass as she stood on her porch, watching Vince race his bike down the street with Jordan jogging alongside, pretending to struggle to keep up. Vince's laughter rang out, sharp and bright, cutting through the early morning calm. Paula smiled, but the knot of unease from the day before still sat heavy in her chest. Inside, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She ignored it at first, assuming it was a customer asking about a cake order. But when it buzzed again, then a third time, she frowned and walked over to check. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. No voicemail. She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the callback button, but something told her not to press it. Instead, she set the phone down and went back to the porch, trying to shake the feeling that something was off. In the city, Bea sat in a dimly lit coffee shop, her fingers drumming on the table as she waited for her investigator. The man across from her, a wiry guy with a scruffy beard and a laptop bag slung over his shoulder, slid a manila envelope toward her. This is everything I've got, he said, his voice low. Address, school records, even a schedule of her market days. She's not hiding as well as she thinks. Bea opened the envelope, her eyes scanning the contents. A map of the small town, a photo of Paula's house, a class roster with Vince's name circled. Her lips curled into a tight smile. And the kid, she asked. Definitely hers. Enrolled under her last name, but the birth certificate lists no father. Timeline matches your guy. Bea leaned back, her mind racing. Good work, she said, sliding a stack of cash across the table. Keep this quiet. The investigator pocketed the money and left without another word. Bea stayed, sipping her cold coffee, plotting. She wasn't going to confront Paula directly, not yet. She needed leverage, something to twist the knife. Maybe a whisper in Jordan's ear, a carefully planted doubt. Or maybe something bigger, something that would make Paula regret ever crossing her path. She'd lost everything, her status, her power, her future. She wasn't about to let Paula live happily ever after. Back in the countryside, Paula was setting up her booth at the town market. The air was thick with the smell of baked goods and fresh produce, and the chatter of locals filled the space. Vince was helping, proudly stacking cookies in neat rows, while Jordan carried crates of pies from the car. The townspeople had grown used to seeing them together, and more than a few offered knowing smiles or teasing comments about the new family in town. "You're gonna have to start baking double," Jordan said, wiping sweat from his brow as he set down the last crate. "These pies are gone before noon." Paula laughed, brushing flour off her hands. "Maybe I'll hire you as my assistant." "Only if I get paid in cookies," he shot back, winking at Vince, who giggled. The morning passed in a blur of sales and small talk. Paula was boxing up a cake for a regular customer when she noticed a woman lingering near the edge of the market, watching her. The woman wore sunglasses and a scarf, her posture stiff, but there was something familiar about her. Paula's stomach twisted, but she shook it off, telling herself it was just her imagination. She handed the cake to the customer and turned back to Vince, who was now counting change with exaggerated seriousness. "Mom, I sold 3 cookies," he announced. "Great job, buddy," she said, ruffling his hair. But her eyes darted back to where the woman had been standing. She was gone. That evening, after the market closed and they'd returned home, Paula couldn't shake the unease. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the velvet box she'd pulled from her dresser. The ring inside gleamed under the light, simple and beautiful. She hadn't touched it since Jordan gave it to her, but now, she felt the weight of it in a new way. Not just a promise, but a choice, one she wasn't sure she was ready to make. Jordan knocked on the doorframe, leaning in. "Vince is out like a light. Too much cookie selling, I think." Paula smiled faintly, closing the box. "He's gonna be a businessman someday." "Like his dad?" Jordan asked, sitting across from her. She met his eyes, searching for the right words. "Jordan, I need to ask you something." "Anything. If something from your past came back, something bad, would you still want this?" "Us?" His brow furrowed. "What's this about?" "Just answer," she said, her voice quieter now. Jordan leaned forward, his hands clasped on the table. "Paula, my past is a mess. You know that. But I'm not that guy anymore. I want this us, Vince, this life, more than anything. Nothing's gonna change that." She nodded, but her fingers tightened around the box. "I hope you mean that." "I do," he said, his voice steady. "What's going on? You've been off all day." She hesitated, then shook her head. "It's nothing. Just tired." He didn't push, but his eyes lingered on her, concerned. "Get some rest," he said, standing. "I'll see you tomorrow." After he left, Paula sat alone, the house quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. She opened the box again, staring at the ring. She wanted to believe Jordan, wanted to trust this life they were building. But the shadow of that woman at the market, the missed calls, the nagging feeling that something was coming, it all felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. In the city, Bea was finalizing her plan. She'd spent the day in the small town, blending in, watching Paula's every move. She'd seen the market, the house, the boy. She'd seen Jordan, too, laughing and carrying crates like some small-town hero. It made her sick. That should have been her life, her man, her future. She wasn't going to let Paula have it. Back at her hotel, Bea spread out the investigator's documents on the bed. Photos, schedules, even a copy of Vince's school enrollment form. She didn't have a clear plan yet, but she had enough to cause trouble. Maybe she'd send an anonymous letter to Jordan, hinting at Paula's secrets. Maybe she'd confront Paula herself, scare her into running again. Or maybe she'd go straight for the kid, nothing drastic, just enough to shake Paula to her core. She picked up her phone and dialed another contact, someone who owed her a favor. "I need you to do something for me," she said, her voice cold. "Nothing illegal, just persuasive. I'll send you the details." The next morning, Paula woke to find a note slipped under her door. No envelope, no name, just a single sheet of paper with typed words, "I know who you are. Leave town, or everyone will know." Her hands shook as she read it. She checked the windows, the locks, but everything was secure. Vince was still asleep upstairs, oblivious. She stuffed the note into her pocket, her heart racing. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone knew, someone who wanted her gone.